So I typically write up concrete tiles like this that are loose on the edge like this. Sometimes the nails that are holding them in are rusting out, so it's making all these loose. So we don't want any of these to fall on somebody's head. We're missing a shingle back there. It's already fallen down. I don't know where it's at, but that's what's going to happen up here if we don't get these things secured. This is not what you want. So I'm up in the attic of a 20-year-old house down here in Santan Valley, Arizona, and I'm looking at a few things. Doesn't look like anybody's been up here and did much except for some wiring. They added a whole bunch of lights, left a whole bunch of electrical wire all over the insulation, put some can lights in down there. A little bit shy on the insulation in a few areas. I can see the wood poking through on the bottom cord. It's only about 6-8 inches in most areas. A lot of the flexible duct straps, so those are going to be the black straps right there that are holding the ducts in place, have broken off and let go. So a lot of these ducts are laying down in the insulation. That one's still together, but we've had a couple of them break along the way there on that main trunk. So a little bit of attention up here. We've got soffit ventilation down there with the baffles to protect those holes from all the insulation right before it. So good to see that. We've got some ventilation on the roof surface, some regular vents, got about half a dozen of those. So between the gable vents, the soffit vents, and the vents in the field of roof, we've got adequate ventilation up here. We're walking through this truss-built attic with cellulose blown-in insulation, and we want to see about 8 to 10 inches. And when we can see the bottom cords of the truss, that's an easy indicator that we don't have that level of insulation that we want up here. So as I'm walking back, I'm looking for areas where we may have leaked water before, areas where maybe the roof has a hole in it or has been patched before and the patch has been fixed, but the repairs or the damage wasn't on the floor of the attic here. Areas like that where we have no insulation whatsoever over that little area, that's where the gas line goes up to the rooftop package unit. And then all your ductwork meets back here and splits off by the main AC unit that's up on the roof. Got one row in, return air, distribution plenum, taking it all over the attic space here now. A couple things I did note: we've got PEX, got some clear PEX, some blue PEX in the attic here, so we've got to be careful where we step. Don't want to be breaking any water lines here. Then we have a bath ventilation fan vent right there going up to the roof surface, and we've got another bath ventilation fan over there, but it's tied into the same hole as the dryer duct. So they do this to save holes in the roof, so they think that running 2 vents out of 1 hole is a smart thing to do, but you don't want to run a bathroom vent up where a dryer vent terminates. This dryer vent is too short, and it's full of lint at the moment, and a lot of that lint is coming back down into the attic on the floor all around here, and guess where else it's going? Down this vent pipe. And it's going to land on top of the bathroom vent fan, actually in this case the laundry vent fan, and it's going to be a potential fire hazard. You can see all this stuff up here, the dog hair, lint, that's all flammable. And that, if it doesn't get out, the roof is coming down right on top of your bathroom laundry vent fan. The first thing I noticed when I got up in the attic access was this 90-degree bend. I hate to see 90-degree bends. Yeah, it's going down in the laundry room. It's not a major plenum, but this really restricts the airflow. Same with this flue right here, this vent. It's all kinked up. We just need to make these as smooth transitions as possible. That way we can get the airflow down there as quietly as possible. But very common for me to see this up here. See that? That's R30 insulation, fiberglass depth. It's roughly 10-12 inches. We don't have that up here. I'm barely getting my hand in the insulation right here before I'm touching the bottom. So that's not adequate. Hardly ever are they adequate. We always get a little bit of settlement, but add a little bit in here and you'll be all good. So I'm not sure on this Opendoor property right now that we're at. Got in here, everything's nice and clean, right? You got the same floors as typical Opendoor puts in here, same color walls, same light fixtures, typical. Is this guy working? Yeah, it is working. It's just broken. You can see there's a lot of wear and tear in this house. We're missing a lot of plastic trim, like on the windows. especially here. You can see the weather strippings bowing in certain areas where it just gets too hot. This window's actually blowing in a bunch of dirt because there's a big gap down here, letting a bunch of debris in. And that's a bowing weather stripping right there. It's more cosmetic than anything, but it's still an issue. This window's got a lot of plastic missing on the inside. Plastic up here, 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 all that's missing. Some down there, what that does is it allows pressurized air or moisture to get in here and push in those weather stripping, you know, bars right there. Pushes those in so we get those goofy looking windows like this over here. So you can see that these are all rubber. They're not metal. They're probably the original to the windows. Well, if we go back here to the front, it looks like they've done some repairs because these are all metal now. These are all metal. But we still have some issues here. We're still missing this whole seal right there, all the way in here. We don't even have a seal right there. You can see the seal on the outside's all blown out. So they did a little bit of fixing here, but they didn't really fix the window the way it should be. Another thing I'm concerned about is looking around on the floorboards of this place. Looks like the trim was done and the flooring was done, but I've seen a lot of lines. See all these lines around here? Looks like somebody ripped off wallpaper. So when they take the trim off, some of this paper on the sheetrock peels off with it, leaving these little gaps here. And if you don't texture it right, you're still gonna see that crack. So I think the floorboards were ripped up, possibly had some moisture damage. I don't know, maybe they were just ripped up to replace them. But a lot of that sheetrock paper was adhered to the trim and it got pulled up with it. We're not talking about just a couple rooms. This is just about every room in the house is like that. Got lines over there, lines over there, lines here. Pretty obvious when you shine a flashlight down and see the shade. You can see it. Goes a little bit there, but then it disappears on that wall. But I'm concerned about it through this property because there's quite a few areas where it's visible. You can see they did some texturing down there on the bottom foot and a half or so, just from doing new trim boards, putting new trim boards up. We've got more repairs along here where the bath is leaked. You can see the sheetrock papers pulled away on that spot. And they just painted and textured right over the top of it. So there's a few things here that kind of stick out. You see that big line. Is it a big problem? Not really. It's not a huge problem. It's more cosmetic than anything else, but you know, a lot of people buy houses because they like the way they look. So when we start seeing stuff like that, people are like, oh, I didn't see that at the original walkthrough. I see it now and it kind of worries me. And we don't have a reason why it was like that. It's just piss poor workmanship. You can see some more patching right down there. I'm not concerned about it. I just want my buyer to know, hey, there's been some patching, some more paper pulled off the bottom there. They have several outlets that are upside down. Usually those are connected to half-hot switches. Not here. They were just swapped upside down for no reason. And they did go ahead and update your smoke detectors. Smoke detectors in the hallways. Ran some smoke detectors in the bedroom too. These are all battery operated, so they don't interconnect. If one goes off, the next one won't go off. But they did what I like to see. So you put a smoke alarm here and a smoke alarm there to protect the bedrooms, and then you put another smoke alarm in the bedrooms to protect all the other bedrooms. What they didn't do is they didn't put a carbon monoxide detector to protect these bedrooms from that garage door. So that garage door does not close on its own. It's been misadjusted. These are self-closing hinges. That one and the bottom one are self-closing hinges, but they're out of alignment or out of use right now, so the door isn't closing. So you want to worry about carbon monoxide coming from the garage and going in here, especially when this door doesn't seal. Now, out to the garage, there's not a whole lot going on out here. We've got an old A.O. Smith water heater that's doing a good job today. I'd like to see a pan under that for safety, protect that plywood from any water damage. Like to see a drip leg on the gas line, not a big deal. TPR valve right there is connected to hard rigid pipe going to the exterior. And we've got our exhaust fluid that is connected with sheet metal screws, which we like to see. So this is why I worry about carbon monoxide right there. It's because if this flue pipe gets knocked off or for some reason it puts out some carbon monoxide, goes right in there. So you need some protection. Get your attic access right there as well. So got high and low combustion air vents. These are going to let a lot of dirt in, especially when they're not properly installed like that. Looks like somebody backed up into that a little bit. The curb in the garage here, the concrete looks like it's been patched a little bit. You can see it's gotten some moisture, some of that spalling efflorescence coming off of it. Again, we can see more patching, likely for this electrical outlet for the electrical car plug-in. But the garage door has been replaced. Looks almost brand new. I don't want to see bugs getting in down there. I would patch that up a little bit. But yeah, our lights on the ceiling aren't working today. Looks like they wired up 2 can lights here that are not functional as well. This light in here just says flash. And you can hear the light strips trying to turn on, but nothing happens. Then we've got these 2 outlets here, 2 switches that go nowhere. They're not connected to those outlets. Likely they're connected to these lights that were never installed. We've got some more dirt coming in on this bedroom window because those seals are starting to lose their seal. That's what happens. You'll get a bunch of that. So that dirt goes down in this frame too, and it builds up in this frame, and you can get a good amount of dirt in there. That's why almost every report I'm recommending that they clean these windowsills out. It's Arizona. What I did notice about these windows is quite a few of them have some bends around the windows right here. I think this property was trying to get broken into at some point in time. There's 2 or 3 windows that have a good bend right there, like they were trying to pry the window open. So I take that back. In this bedroom, we've got a 3-gang outlet here, a 3-gang switch. We've got 2 of them that used to go up to the light kit there because it used to be a light and a fan. So that was 2 of the switches, right? And then the 3rd one is connected to that half hot over there. So you could have a lamp next to your bed and turn the lamp on, turn the fan on, turn the light off, all separate. I love my puppy dog, but this would drive me nuts. There's a lot of patchwork here. This is the next bedroom window. You can see all the weather stripping gaps, the seal gaps around that. Pretty bad on some of these windows. See, this weather stripping's black. This one's been replaced with a metal piece, but more missing black or plastic trim there. More missing plastic trim up here. These windows are at about, I don't know, 50%. Finding some more patchwork in certain areas. If you just get the light right, you can find it. So a lot of these outlets are pretty wore out. Not useless, they're functional. Every single one of these outlets is functional, but they are wore out and loose in their outlets. So what I like to do, a lot of these are loose, so I'll pop these covers off and I'll tighten up these if they're too bad. If I start seeing a lot like that, I just write them up. So a refrigerator spot, this is where the refrigerator is going to go, plug in back here. I noticed that this is already swelling quite a bit. And that looks damp. That sure looks damp in there, doesn't it? That's wet. This is wet. So I've got a couple different ways of testing it. Usually what I'll do is I'll first take my contact moisture meter just to confirm how much moisture, that we're getting some elevated moisture levels. 30, 40, I mean that's pure water. But see, what this does is it penetrates the wall, and I don't want to leave a whole bunch of holes in there, so I'll get my contactless moisture meter and we'll see how wet we are at that point. And it doesn't take much to show that we've got some really elevated moisture levels in this trim board. and it's all coming from this. This thing is just dripping. So we've got moisture all the way around here. It's not picking it up on this piece of trim, but piece of trim right there is getting saturated for sure. Yeah, it's pretty much generalized just right in this area, as much as I can see. Let's see what's on the other side of this though. Maybe there's some moisture leaking through, because so we do have a closet back here, and look at that, you can see moisture marks on the bottom side here. No. Not picking up any moisture today, right there on that spot, but you can see where there has been moisture before. It's a water stain right there. Water marks all the way along here. Looks like somebody patched up a hole in the wall over there, so I don't know what that's for. There's another bathroom on the side, I think. Yeah, so that would have been in the back side of the bathtub. Sometimes the painters that Opendoor gets are not the best. You just literally wipe some of that paint away. That's all that's going to take. Certain spots here where it didn't take. You can see the old color of cabinets. Just a piss poor paint job. It's coming off on the inside here as well. We're missing an angle stop on the cold line there. Checking the go between, just seeing how much debris is built up into it. Looks like a new dishwasher drain line. See some drip marks from where they were painting before. Garbage disposal. Got something in it, that's for sure. Got some minor blemishes on the sink here. You can epoxy those up, clean this up a little bit, but the sink is getting a little bit old. You can refinish it, bring it back to life, but you can see that it's starting to wear down pretty thin in most areas. And let's be honest, most of the time when people refinish cabinets, it is a bad job. It's gonna be a bad job because they don't use the right paint, they don't prep properly enough. This hardware, you know, these things are just spinning like crazy. Nothing's gonna hold that together. Just nothing on it. Then they drop in this new equipment like a new oven, new microwave, new dishwasher, new garbage disposal, things like that. Put a nice coat of paint on it, get a nice shiny countertop on it. It looks all nice and spiffy, right? But then they don't take the time to replace the outlets. So the outlets are, you know, brown as turd brown looking. Some of these don't even match. You know, they're a completely different style. The microwave on an Opendoor house typically isn't going to work. This is a brand new one too. Hasn't been tested yet. So what they do, there's no power on it because Opendoor has a security system. They typically will unplug the microwave and plug their security system in it. So in order for me to test the microwave, I have to unplug their security system and hopefully don't get yelled at in the process. Nice finish on these drawers, but come on, look at that. Lipstick on a pig is exactly what these things end up being. Hey, for the right price, anything's worth it. Just get it for the right price. Don't overpay for stuff like this. You know, this house is perfectly fixable. We can repaint this stuff, add some new hardware. Oh my God, look at the blown out bottom of this countertop. So yeah, you talk about a nice refinished countertop, right? But you can kind of see the bump back there from the old spot where it was starting to go up, right? Let's see if I get it there. There. Yeah, so that's the old warped transition between the two countertops that they just went right over the top of. So that bump will never go away. That will always be there. They have one on this side too. Not as bad, just a little one. But the old countertop It is all blown out. You can see the whole bottom of it has gotten water damaged at some point in time. Should look a lot cleaner like that, but by the sink. Yeah, so don't be fooled. You're not getting a new kitchen. As much as you want to think it's a new kitchen, it's not a new kitchen. So one of the problems with me when I get to a house and I have to take all of this stuff off just to test machines or test the equipment, it's telling me that I know nobody's ran this thing before. So nobody's ever run water down this when they have paper sitting in the dishwasher. That means that they hooked it up and they never tested it. So this is completely up to me, so I got to be careful watching for leaks, making sure everything's hooked up right, because nobody tested this thing before they put it on the market. It'll have some pretty major gaps up there too, but we're just going to run it on a normal wash, let it go, keep monitoring it. And we knew the oven was new too, brand new, so I've got to pull all this stuff out of here. And if you're a home inspector, you know how big of a pain in the butt this is, because a lot of times you'll miss a piece of tape like that, and then you'll melt it inside, and then you'll spend 20 minutes trying to clean up the melted plastic. But this is also telling me that nobody has tested this. Nobody has tested this oven, nor the microwave, likely, because they had it hooked up to that. So I worry about this stuff. Stuff that doesn't get tested before I get here, it's a red flag in my book. An Opendoor knows that if you do a remodel of your kitchen, you should be adding an anti-tip device, anti-tip bracket right back here on one of the legs of your oven. So if anybody moving in here as a kid that wants to jump on the front of this, it isn't going to tip over and kill them. Hey, look what I found in the oven. That is called an anti-tip bracket. So you're going to mount that thing on your wall, and then the foot of your oven is going to go in that little gap right there. And then that's going to prevent the thing from tipping over. So this is like a $10 part at Home Depot. They don't put it in because they're not thinking. So when I'm filling up these sinks, I'm always checking out these overflows. You can see this one's really rusted out. The sink has been here a while. So I double check, run the water up to it, make sure it doesn't leak. We always look at the floor of the vanity in here. I always got shampoo bottles that are going in here or something that are wet. Some of that drips down. Sometimes what these flippers will do is they'll just redo the overflow. If it rusts out and it starts leaking, instead of replacing the sink, they'll just cheap out and just put one of these in here to catch all that overflow that's been leaking and direct it down to the drain pipe again. And after we run the water heater for a little bit, you could probably hear that cracking and popping. That means that this thing hasn't been drained in a while and we got a lot of sediment built up into it. So need to flush this thing out. This thing is getting a little bit older, so I would look at a replacement sooner than later. So it's a little easier to see that water leak using a FLIR. So nice to pull these out at home inspections. As a homeowner, I would very much consider having a thermal camera, just a cheaper one to help you find some basic things. Because looking around here, I did a full inspection of these bathrooms. You know, it's showing the water that's in the tub, not a big deal. But then I scanned behind the toilet and look at that little dot, that little blue dot. I would have never, or actually I probably would have found it if I would have felt, but I didn't feel below it. So it wasn't until I started scanning this area with my thermal camera that I ran into this moisture. You can see that thing is dripping down here. So write that up, but these things are worth their weight in gold, I'm telling you. Especially as a home inspector or a homeowner who gives a damn about your house. Look into one of these. But we were talking about floods inside the house earlier, and some indicators are things like this on the bottom of this cabinet. You know, it's a water stain, it's water damage. Now this trim is a little bit water damaged going down the side. It looks like a lot of these trim boards have been replaced because they haven't even filled in the braid holes yet. These are like non-finished. They've been primed but not painted yet. So they've done a lot of work replacing a lot of these trim boards, but not all of them. Not all of them have been replaced. Like in this bedroom, I think these are different than those. Just see the ickiness going on in the trim of this house. It's not the end of the world, right? But it just kind of indicates where this house has been, what it's been through. All the gaps that they left underneath the door frames here. That's wide open. That's wide open. That's wide open. Be nice to come through and caulk those things closed.